So I'm selling dope at this Little Caesars, right? And I'm plugged in because I just got the joint, or just got out the joint. So I'm plugged in, homie. I'm already zooted up, right? I got good prices. I got as much as you want. I got bread, whatever. So I got all these little dudes, the homie Eno, the homie Robert, who's still around, the homie Black Rob will still jump in the comments sometimes. He can vouch for all this shit. The homie Robert Guerra. He's in one of my videos. There's a video I made about, I made a couple videos with him. There's some of the very first videos I made are with a guy named Robert Guerra. And he worked with me at that Little Caesars. He's one of the dudes that I'm talking about. And I had all these little dudes selling dope for me and working for me. I ended up getting raided. By the task force. We can get this discovery too. Maybe that's what I should do with my channel now, is just go back over all my discoveries, all my crimes. Well, this is how they got a search warrant for my house. They staked outside of my house for days. And every time that we would bring the trash out, they would go steal the trash. And once they had the trash, they would take it back and rummage through it. And it took them a week to get 3 pieces of material out of the trash that tested positive for cocaine. That gave them the first part of their search warrant. Then they had pictures of numerous vehicles, like the homies that would have rims, things like this, right? People look like they're balling, look like drug dealers, right? And traffic. They had pictures of traffic, you know what I mean? 15, 20 times throughout the week, you got pictures of nice cars, people rolling up in nice cars, things like this. The same cars over and over again, the same cars 2-3 times in a row. Then they took a bunch of aerial photos, and they said that it looked like there was something buried in my backyard, that I had been up to something. There was some dirt back there. So based on these factors, a judge signed off on a search warrant for them to kick my door in. And that's what they did. But to make sure they had me, they started pulling people over that were leaving my house. They pulled the first person over and they refused to talk to them. They let the homie go. He calls me and says, "Hey man, they're watching your house." He goes, "I'm just telling you now, they're watching your house. Stop doing what you're doing." I said, "Man, this fool's tripping." Whatever. So the next person they hit is this dude named Eddie. Eddie agrees to work for him. I don't know the particulars of the deal that they made with Eddie. But what I do know is, the facts that I do know is this. Eddie came into my house. I was playing Xbox. This is whenever Xbox One had first come out. I had an Xbox One. I traded a couple ounces of weed for it. Couple ounces of swag for it. I was playing Xbox One, and Eddie come in and he says, "So how much dope you got?" I said, "I don't know. I said, "I got a little more than a half ounce." He said, "Okay, let me get it." I said, "You want all of it?" He goes, "Yeah, I want all of it." I said, "Okay, fine." So I weighed it out and it was 17 grams, right? Like 17.2 grams or something like that. And I gave him a deal on it. Really good deal. $320 or something like that. We were getting it real cheap. Dope was so cheap back then. Crack was. Really good crack was. Here's VPS. Quarter pounds for $1,800. So he says, "Okay, can I use your scale?" He said, my scale's broken. Can I use your scale? I said, yeah, you can use my scale. So he then takes the 17 grams that I just sold him, and he bundles it up in 20s, in exact .2s. But this isn't weird for Eddie, because this is what Eddie does. Eddie sells dope in the bars, and what he does is he packages them up in double wrapped 20s, and then he keeps the 20s in his mouth, and he sells out of his mouth, so that way he can swallow the shit if he needs to. So it's not weird behavior for Eddie to do this. So Eddie, he takes all of these 17 grams and he wraps them up in double wrapped 20s. And so what? There's 5 20s to a gram, 5 times 17, that's going to be 50, 85, so 90 20 pieces, right? Which ends up being a fucking bag like this. It's a huge bag like this. And he says, okay, bro, I'm gone. And I said, cool. He says, I'm gonna use the bathroom. I said, okay. So he hits the bathroom and he leaves. I had this woman there named Blue. They just called her Blue because she was a Native American woman who had vibrant blue eyes. Her eyes were blue like mine. But she was clearly Native American. And they called her Blue. I should know her name. I can't remember her name, but I remember they called her that. I remember what she looked like. And she was laying on my bed. And I heard boom. And I started hearing screaming. Well, the way that the house worked is that my door, the door to my bedroom, was directly in front of the front door, right? It was just at the extreme opposite end, the other opposite end of the house. And so, but my door was part of the way open because Eddie had just left. And me and her on the bed pretty much right in front of the door. So whenever I hear that, I look over at the door and I can see the red lights from the beams from the guns. And they're pointed towards, or their beams are bouncing off the back of the thing, bouncing off the door. I can see them. I can see them coming for me. And I got up and I was just like, they're here. And she just looked at me and she just shook her head. And so they come in. Now I'm on parole. I just been released. I've been out about 120 days. This is in 2004 that I'm talking about. They says, can we search or something like that? And I said, you guys, clearly you're gonna search, you know what I mean? And they come back, and as far as I know, all the dope's gone. Eddie just left with all the dope. And I got a dirty scale because it was good dope, and good cocaine is very oily. If anybody knows anything about pure cocaine was actually pure back then. And it was extremely oily, and you needed to wipe off your scale after you did anything with it. So I had a hot scale. That scale was hot. And they says, you gonna talk to us or what? And I was like, yeah, probably not. About what you want to talk about? And the dude come around the corner and he had that whole bag of 20s that Eddie had just wrapped up, that huge fucking bag of 20s. So now we've got a dirty scale and this huge bag of 20s. And he goes, what about this? You want to talk about this? Fuck. Nope. And that was the end of that conversation. They put me in the back of the patrol car, and I can vividly remember hearing him tell somebody on the phone. He told them, I'm not giving you any more money until you come up with something. I already gave you like $300 and you ain't gave me shit, is what he told somebody on the phone. I had been up for a couple days at the time, and I was trying to read the screen. I can remember being in the back of the cop car trying to read the screen, but my eyes wouldn't focus because I'd been up for too long. They took me to the county. And that was that. That was the end of that. I pled that out to distribution of pills, if I remember right. That's what's on my record. That's what actually shows up on my record, is just attempted distribution of pills or something like that, I think is what it's pled down to. It was my mother's house. I had paroled to my mother's house. They charged her too. She still has a felony on her record. It's like 20 years later. What is that, 2004? I said, yeah, 2004. 20 years later. It still haunts her. Shit's fucked up.